Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. We got a lot to get to today. We're going to be discussing Tennessee's kickoff time with Arkansas, which has been made official. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the news surrounding the Vols and their defense. A lot of defensive awards this week. I apologize, guys. I have a mic issue. Just bear with me here on this. But we're going to talk a lot about the Vols defense. They have a lot of defensive awards, a lot of defensive recognition, and we're going to get to that. Also, we're going to talk about SEC officiating. Is this going to cost Tennessee at some point later in the year? That'll be bank on it. Paul Finebaum might retire and run for Senate. What the H? SEC quarterback power rankings and football IQ also on this. I apologize. This is some technical difficulties with my microphone. It is a little frustrating. Try my best to get this situation resolved, but we may not be able to do that today. So, while I'm working on that, you guys hit your like and subscribe button. You ring the bell, turn on your notifications. Tell me how I'm sounding. We're trying to get this thing working, and hopefully this will get soon enough. How is this sounding? Is this better, guys? Let me know. Let's try. 1 second. I'm testing this right now. Testing 1, 2, 3. I'm going to play a quick ad real quick for you guys. Be right back. Trying to fix this mic. Give me 1 second. Let's just go ahead and listen to Banks and Jones first.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
All right, I think we got things rolling here. Apologies, guys. Technical difficulties to start the show. Gotta always love that. So let's get rolling with the Vol report. Tennessee and Arkansas are set to kick off at 4:15 Eastern when they both come off of their bye next weekend. It will be game number 6 for Tennessee, and they will have yet to have played a night game. Tennessee played Syracuse at noon. They played ETSU at 3:30. They played Georgia at 3:30. They played UAB at 12:45, and they're playing and they played Mississippi State at 4:15. Now they are set to play Arkansas at 4:15. A stark departure from last year, where Tennessee's opener against Chattanooga was at 12:45. Then they played NC State at 7:30, Kent State at 7:45, Oklahoma at 7:30, Arkansas at 7, and Florida at 7. Matter of fact, Tennessee last year only had 4 games that were not night games. That was Chattanooga in the opener, Alabama at 3:30 on October the 19th, and then UTEP on November the 23rd, and Vanderbilt on November the 30th. Interestingly enough, if you look at the rest of Tennessee's schedule, there's a very good chance they don't have a night game the rest of the year. Because let's just go down the list looking at their schedule. Let's go to the SEC games the week they play Alabama. The week they do play Alabama, there is also Ole Miss and Georgia. That's probably going to be the 8 p.m. start that day because it's hard to see Tennessee. I think Ole Miss and Georgia might be a bigger game than Tennessee and Alabama. And if it's not Ole Miss and Georgia, you also have LSU and Vanderbilt, although that's an early noon start. That's already locked in for an early noon start. That's a flex game. But my bet is Ole Miss and Georgia get that one that week. So when Tennessee plays LSU, it'll be Ole Miss and Georgia. It could be Ole Miss and Georgia when they play Alabama, excuse me. Now, Tennessee, Kentucky is already locked in as a night game the weekend before Halloween. So Tennessee, that is one night game Tennessee is set to play. Oklahoma is another flex game, 3:30, 4:30, or 6 to 8 p.m. start. You hope the Oklahoma one is a 6 to 8 p.m. start because that's on November the 1st, the day after Halloween. That is the perfect day to bring out the black jerseys. However, Georgia plays Florida that week. Vanderbilt plays Texas that week, although I think those are actually locked in at noon and 3:30. So Tennessee's best chance is probably Oklahoma for a home game at night because Kentucky, as we know, is on the road. If you look down the list even further, Tennessee has a bye after Oklahoma, but then you go into mid-November and Tennessee plays New Mexico State. That's already locked in as a 4:15 game. And then the weekend after that, they're going to visit Florida. That could be another flex game. We don't know yet. That's 3:30, 4:30, or 6 to 8 as of right now. And then after Florida, Tennessee's going to host Vanderbilt. That's already locked in as an afternoon game. So at most, Tennessee's going to get 4 night games this year. Alabama, Oklahoma, Kentucky, and Florida. I'm sorry, Alabama, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Florida, and Vanderbilt could all potentially be night games. I'm sorry, Alabama, Oklahoma, Kentucky, and Florida. Alabama, Oklahoma, and Kentucky, and Florida, they're only potential night games. Right now, only Kentucky's locked in as a night game. Oklahoma probably will be one, but Alabama and Florida are completely up in the air. So Tennessee may only have one, could have as few as 2 night games this year, and will only have at most 4 after last year they had 8. What does that mean for Tennessee? Well, we're going to discuss that. The Vol Report brought to you by Hometown Realty LLC. Go to ryancoleman.org. Knoxville's best from 2017 to 2022. Download the app, get instant updates, personalized searches, and more. Hometown Realty LLC. This doesn't seem like much, you would think. However, I do think there's more to the story. Tennessee, because of when Josh Heupel practices and the tempo they run, has always favored noon or late afternoon games. Night games have always been the worst for them. Last year, Tennessee, against the spread in night games, when you include the college football playoff game against Ohio State, was 3-9. They started 3-0 against NC State, Kent State, and Oklahoma. The biggest reason they started 3-0, because in September, you don't know how good teams are, and those 3 teams were wildly overrated. NC State was number 24 when Tennessee faced them. They finished 6-7. Oklahoma was number 15 when Tennessee faced them. They finished 6-7. Kent State, despite everybody expecting them to be awful last year, was still wildly overrated because they may have been the worst team in the history of college football last year. I am not kidding you on that. They might have actually been the worst team in college football history. So, yes, those 3 games, those teams are overrated. After that, Tennessee lost every game against the spread at night, including being upset against Arkansas, losing twice outright to Arkansas and Georgia. But they failed to cover the spread in the rest of their games. So night games have been an issue for Tennessee throughout Josh Heupel's tenure because of how early they practice. There's a lot of people on Twitter that are Vol fans that are relatively upset about the lack of night games for Tennessee. I would encourage you guys to look at their record at night, though, and understand that the SEC is doing Tennessee inadvertently a massive favor by giving them these afternoon games. Also, more importantly, maybe not more importantly, but if you like the setting in college football, I'm going to be honest, and this is going to be one of my hot takes. I think in the fall for Tennessee, I love the night game setting. I love it. I think the afternoon setting for the fall in Tennessee is the best afternoon setting in all of college football. When you have the gray skies that give you the fall feel with the orange at Neyland Stadium, I kind of like the afternoon kickoff. Not noon, not at noon, not right at 12 when it's sunny. No, I'm talking like 3:30. I love those 3:30 kickoffs in Knoxville more than I love them anywhere else because the gray skies, kind of the Smoky Mountains get that little fit. It's like the perfect, most beautiful college football setting there is. So I actually think, Tennessee fans, I think you guys should be happy for 2 reasons about the lack of night games this year. One, I think it's because the setting's just better for home games at night, in the afternoon. It just is. But 2, and more notably, Tennessee is better in the afternoon than they are at night. Now, again, they visit Kentucky at night. That's a big deal. But Kentucky's Kentucky. They should own them anyway. So you should actually hope Alabama's in the afternoon. Now, the Oklahoma game, that's the one exception. If I'm Tennessee, I want that one to be at night because the night game you want every year at Tennessee is the one where the game is right around Halloween. Now, typically that would be leading up to Halloween, before Halloween. But since this game is directly the date after Halloween, I think Oklahoma, you want the 8 p.m. start. You want the all black. You want everybody hyped for that game in Knoxville. But in terms of settings that we're talking about here, look, Alabama and Kentucky are both on the road, so I don't think it matters as much. But yeah, Vanderbilt being an afternoon game, I don't really think is as big of a deal, quite honestly. I think Vanderbilt being an afternoon game is kind of what you want if you are Tennessee. New Mexico State being at 4:15, perfect, beautiful setting, beautiful kickoff. And yeah, Arkansas being at 4:15, this is a home game. This is what you want if you're Tennessee. A 4:15 kickoff at Neyland Stadium in October is the most beautiful setting. This is when they need to debut their Smoky Grays. They need to bring out the Smoky Grays for the Arkansas game. They need to have them out. They need to have them ready to go because this is the setting that you live for with that type of game. And then you do the all black for the Oklahoma game. Then you do regular orange for New Mexico State and Vanderbilt. That's how I would play it. I think in general, the night games overall are they work against what Tennessee and Josh Heupel do, and they take away from the Neyland Stadium setting. So honestly, I'm actually thrilled that this is a 4:15 kickoff. It's mid-October. This is the time you want that afternoon kickoff. I wish it was 3:30 for Tennessee to be able to cover that. But hey, 4:15 kickoff with the Knoxville setting. This is what you want if you are Tennessee and you're in the SEC race. It's everything you want, honestly. It's everything you live for. And the offense, by the way, notice they're clicking a lot more this year than they were last year. Could that be because they're playing more noon games instead of night games? I think that's highly possible. And so when you take that into account, I think Tennessee, I think it's short-sighted to always want the night games. As great as the setting is for the night games, I think if you're Tennessee, you want these afternoon games because it makes your team play better and it makes your team do everything that they should do in Josh Heupel's situation, and it creates a good setting. So how would I do my, and it also, this is the perfect setting for your jerseys the rest of the way. Smoky grays for Arkansas. Alabama, Kentucky are road games. Blackout for Oklahoma. I know they're talking about orange out. Do the blackout. Hopefully Oklahoma is a night game. And but even if it's not, that's the day for the black jerseys. Oklahoma is the game for the all black jerseys. Bring them out, get rolling with them. I'm telling you, that's the one you want to have happen. So smoky grays for Arkansas, all black for Oklahoma, and that's how you want this. That is how you want this to roll going forward. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com. It is time for today's tough question, and that revolves around Tennessee's defense. Tennessee's defense is starting to come together. Last week, in reality, they only legitimately gave up, should we say, they beat Mississippi State 41-34. In my opinion, they offense spotted Mississippi State 21 points, I want to say, because there were 2 interceptions that Miles Kitzelman dropped, and then there was also the Braylon Staley fumble. So in reality, Tennessee's defense really only gave up 13 points. Mississippi State only had 378 yards of total offense. This is showing in the reports, by the way. The defense, meanwhile, scored 2 touchdowns. Joshua Josephs had a fumble return for a touchdown and was named Senior Bowl Player of the Week. Arian Carter was named SEC Defensive Player of the Week with so many tackles. And Tyree West was named SEC Co-Defensive Lineman of the Week. And by the way, Colton Hood, Colton Hood was back against Syracuse. But so, with all that in mind, is Tennessee's defense on the verge of being elite and catching up to the offense? That is today's tough question. It is the poll question right now. Is Tennessee's defense on the verge of being elite and as good as the offense? Yes. No. It already is. It'll surpass the offense. Or how about this? All right, so here we go. Is Tennessee's defense on the verge of being elite and as good as the offense? Yes. No. It already is. It has or will surpass the offense. All right, you guys can go ahead and vote on that now. I'm going to say that, yes, I think it is. By the way, throwback real quick, Derek. I get your point when you say gray with the gray uniforms is more salute to the Confederate Army. Just want to point out the history point that I don't know if that would land in East Tennessee. But don't forget, East Tennessee was heavily pro-Union the entire time during the Civil War. Even at the height of it. So a little bit of a different story, but I like your play on wearing the gray jerseys for the fall. So what I was going to say was, as far as the defense being elite, I'm going to say yes. And here's why. The defense already looks elite. They were really banged up at the beginning of the year. They got Jackson Boyd back last week. It showed. Okay. The defense was not at fault for that game. They did their job. Coming off the bye, they're going to have David Hobbs back. They're going to be able to run many more defensive linemen. And Tyree West is all of a sudden having a breakout season as a superstar defensive end. Joshua Josephs is proving himself to be elite as an edge rusher. When you get David Hobbs in there and Rodney Hunter can run a deeper rotation, they're going to be incredible. And then most importantly, as we now know, or as we suspect, Jermod McCoy is going to return as the number one cornerback for Tennessee. That's happening next week, reportedly against Arkansas. That's what he's gunning for. If they get Jermod McCoy back to be the lockdown corner, think about it. Your defense is more experienced. They're playing together better now. You have a deeper rotation on your defensive line. And you have a cornerback situation that is superb with Colton Hood and Jermod McCoy on either side of the ball. And Jermod McCoy can play McCoy Island, and Colton Hood is still very good. With that all in mind, yeah, I think the defense is going to catch up to the offense. The defense will look like it did last year. I think it would actually be shocking if it didn't. So when you take that into account, I think that Tennessee's defense is going to be elite. Now, there's some other reasons that this defense is getting elite. What's one of the reasons the defense is getting better? Boo Carter is fully settled into the role of Tennessee's of the nickel spot. As a matter of fact, for those who don't know, and this is interesting, I believe, and I'm pulling it up now, that Boo Carter had the highest PFF grade of any defensive back. And it was 81.5 last week. Boo Carter had the highest PFF grade, and Jalen McMurray was second. Those were the two star players. You have them rotating in and out. And then you have Jermod McCoy and Colton Hood on either side. If Jermod McCoy gets healthy, you got the depth back with Jackson Moy and David Hobbs on the defensive line. Tyree West is having a breakout year. Yeah, I'm going to tell you guys this straight up. Next week, when Jermod McCoy is healthy, Tennessee is going to be balling. They're going to be balling. They're going to be winning at a high level. I'm telling you guys this right now. I think Tennessee is going to be in great shape. And I do believe that Tennessee's defense is now on the verge of becoming elite. Not to mention Ty Redmond is getting more experienced. So the weakness for Tennessee, with Arian Carter finally playing where he needs to play, the defensive line getting deeper, Tyree West emerging, the cornerbacks getting healthy, plus Ty Redmond getting better. The only weakness for this unit would be the safeties, because I do think Andre Turrentine and Idris Farouk have ceilings. But if you got elite corners and star players at the nickel spot and the cornerback spots, the safeties' jobs get a lot easier. And that's where they're landing right now. So I do believe Tennessee's defense is going to be elite on the level of the offense. I think it's already getting there as we speak, given what has been happening recently. So watch out. And if that does, I mean, guys, they become maybe a national championship favorite. Look, let's just be honest on this. If Jermod McCoy is playing, Tennessee's beating Georgia. I mean, that's just a fact. Gunnar Stockton played epic in that game, but Tennessee had a freshman cornerback in Ty Redmond, two safeties who were struggling, and they were thin on the defensive line. If Jermod McCoy is playing, Tennessee's beating Georgia. I'm just telling you that right now. But as of right now, I do believe that Tennessee's defense will be elite on the they're going to be elite once everybody gets fully healthy, and that might be by the time they play Arkansas. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The poll question up: is Tennessee's defense on the verge of being elite and as good as the offense? 60% of you say yes, 27% say no, 7% say it already is, 7% say it will or has surpassed the offense. I will say this: it was better than the offense last week. All right. Yes, the offense. Okay, let's be fair. The defense held Mississippi State effectively to 13 points. And it scored 14 points. The defense scored more points than it effectively allowed last week against Mississippi State. So I think there's an argument that the defense is already better than the offense, given what happened last week with the way Tennessee was able to win that game. And when you take that into account, I'm going to say yes, because I think that was just one game, but I think they were obviously better last week than they were against the they were obviously better last week than they were when they faced than they were earlier in the year. I mean, I think that's very, very, very clear. And they were better than the offense. And I think they're going to get much, much, much better as time goes on. So look, on my mind, I'm totally leaning on, yes, it will be on the offense's level, and it may already be there. Honestly, it may already be there. So when you take that into account, yes, I think that I think the defense will be superb next year or next week when they come back. You're talking David Hobbs. So let's talk about how deep they're going to go real quick, but just the number of guys they run. All right. The secondary's got a lot of depth now because you're going to have Jamal McCoy and Colton Hood, and then you're going to have Ty Redmond as the third guy. At star, you're going to have Boo Carter and then Jalen McMurray as the second guy. That is a rotation, a 3-man rotation for 2 spots at corner, a 2-man rotation for 1 spot at star. On the defensive line, Bryson Eastland, Jackson Moy, both going to see some action on that front, and Nathan Robinson already back. Isaiah Campbell now starting to play more. He played 19 plays last week. So you got Nathan Robinson, Jackson Moy, Isaiah Campbell, Bryson Easton. If you can get David Hobbs, you go 5 deep. The goal is to go 6 deep. You're already 5 deep with those 5 guys because Isaiah Campbell's emerged. I didn't talk about him. Now, Dominic Bailey is going to be the other guy to play in the middle. They moved him over to the middle, and he's actually been playing very well in the middle because he can play on the end or the middle. Then guess what? You can still go deep on the end spot with Tyree West as your main guy and Tyree Weathersby as your other guy. And then among edge rushers, you can go Jordan Ross and Joshua Josephs and Caleb Herring among the Leo spots. And then most notably, when you go to your linebackers, your clear linebackers, you have a third linebacker now because you can go Arian Carter, who is elite. You can go Jeremiah Tienlander, and then you can go Edwin Spillman. So the only spot where you can't go for an extra guy, one more guy than you have, is safety right now, and that's not going to matter as much. But when you take all that into account, I think the defense is going to be elite. I don't really think there's much of a debate on that at this point, and that's exciting for Tennessee. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection of strict standards. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com, HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, we're going to discuss SEC officiating and what problems it could cause Tennessee in the future. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good,
You're gonna need a new one ASAP.
you are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit the like and subscribe button, ring that bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend building something great here at Off the Hook Sports and want you to be a part of it. All righty. It is time for Bank on It. And actually, no, before we get to that, we got to discuss this real quick. It is this day in Tennessee sports history. And it is a good one. On this day, back in 1989, Tennessee beat fourth-ranked Auburn 21-14. Tennessee beat fourth-ranked Auburn 21-14. It was the comeback game for Tennessee football under Johnny Majors in that year. Reggie Cobb had a really long run to help them beat Auburn. For those who don't remember, the year before, Tennessee started 0-6 and finished the year 5-6. The next season, Tennessee beat Colorado State at home 17-14 to open the year. Looked like they were still in trouble. Then they go to number 6 UCLA and score an upset win 24-6. That gets them into the top 20. They exact revenge on Steve Spurrier-led Duke, beating them 28-6. Turns out UCLA is a bit overrated at this point because after Tennessee, UCLA lost to Michigan. So they're 1-2, and Tennessee's welcoming Auburn to town, and they need another quality win. And they beat fourth-ranked Auburn 21-14, a huge win. That propels Tennessee into the top 10, and Tennessee ends up going 11-1 that year, sharing the SEC title with Alabama, who beat them, and Auburn, who beat Alabama after Tennessee beat Auburn. It was a three-way tie for the SEC title. All three teams were 6-1, and they beat each other, but Tennessee finished the highest-ranked team amongst them after the end of the season because Tennessee won its bowl game, while Alabama lost its bowl game to Miami to finish 10-2. Auburn, for their credit, did win their bowl game, but they had lost 2 regular season games because they lost to Florida State in the regular season. So Tennessee finished number 5. That sparked the 16-year run, the best run of the modern era for Tennessee football, where they made a bowl 16 straight years, won 4 SEC titles, and the national title in 1998. This day in Tennessee sports history brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow us on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. Facebook.com/SportsTreasuresTN, Facebook.com/SportsTreasuresTN.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
All right, it is time for Bank on It, and we're going to talk about SEC officiating. SEC officiating has become a real problem in college football. And we know it cost Auburn 2 weeks ago against the Oklahoma Sooners with a couple of plays that they totally missed. It also was a poorly officiated game when Auburn lost last week to Texas A&M. You could honestly say SEC officiating has cost Auburn 2 games. Now, the refs also screwed up the Texas A&M game. However, over the weekend with Tennessee, it's going to be lost a little bit because they won. But SEC officiating made some of the worst, 2 most horrendous calls I think I have ever seen in college football. Okay, I'm dead serious on this. 2 of the most horrendous calls I think I've ever seen in college football. And I think it's kind of time to start talking about that. Okay, so one of them is the one that stands out the most, and that is the offensive pass interference that was called on Chris Brazzell. And it was one of the worst offensive pass interference penalties I think I've ever seen in football. Okay, so I'm pulling it up for you now, and we all have seen it, but we're just gonna play it again, all right? Because it was just so bad. Let me see if I can get this up for you guys. Sorry, I'm having a hard time. Twitter's not doing a good job of filtering the most obvious ones from the start. Here we go. This is an obvious, horrible, bad call on Chris Brazel. This was a touchdown that was weighed back. They called offensive pass interference. If you look at this, they're both playing. He's grabbing Colton Hood's hair. Colton Hood does extend his arm for a bit, but just a second, and that's after his hair is being grabbed. Or not Colton Hood, Chris Brazel. He's grabbing Chris Brazel's hair right there. Let me show you that again. He's grabbing Chris Brazel's hair, and it's clear that he's making more contact and initiating more contact than even Chris Brazel is. Chris Brazel takes his hand away after he grabs
pushes
him
him right by
makes the catch and scores a touchdown. That's an offensive pass interference. For those who weren't watching the game in the moment, by the way, the ref didn't throw the flag until after Brazel caught the ball and went into the end zone for a touchdown, which is a horrible, horrible call when you think about it. Because if you're going to call offensive pass interference, and that's what they did, if you're going to call offensive pass interference, you have to make the call when you see the contact is made. What the ref was hoping there was that he wouldn't have to make any call because the ball would fall incomplete. But then he got swept up by the home crowd because Chris Brazel made the catch and scored a touchdown. So at that point, you feel like you have to make the call. So guess what? He made the call, and it was a horrible call. I mean, again, I can't get over this enough. It was a horrible call, and it was one of the worst calls of the year in college football. But it's actually not the only call that was made. And I apologize, guys. I am unable to pull this up right now. Elon Musk's Twitter does not do a good job for college football of filtering the right things up, because it's an obvious one on defense where there was a pass interference penalty called on Colton Hood that was just an absolute obvious pass interference by the terrible, obviously not a pass interference call. And it was on Colton Hood, and he had a breakup. I can't find it. I apologize, but it's actually worse than the Chris Brazel one. So the Colton Hood pass interference was absolutely terrible. So with that in mind, I have to ask this question, and we have to go here. And this is Bank on It. And it is brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. SEC officiating is going to affect the teams that make this year's college football playoff, because it's that bad. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank, life made better.
That's right. Bank on it. SEC officiating is going to dictate the outcome of the college football playoff. They may already have. Okay, they may already have, because it could be actually that that Auburn game proved costly overall. Now, it almost could have cost Tennessee. If Tennessee had lost that game, they would be eliminated from the college football playoff right now, specifically because of that issue, because of that call. Those were two terrible calls that never should have been made. And being honest with you guys, it is one of the worst officiated games in college football. And I'm going to tell you my theory on this. We had Jimmy Hyams on the show to talk about this last week. Or not last week, last year, excuse me, last year. SEC officials have been poached by higher leagues, the NFL and things like that. On top of that, SEC referees are part-time, and they don't get paid full-time, and they don't get paid enough to referee games. When you have, as Greg Sankey is doing, when you are refusing to pay officials what you should pay them, two things happen. You don't get the best people to do the job, but more importantly, they don't do the studying in a week that's necessary, I believe, to be a good official. What makes a good official? It's not just making the right calls. How do you make the right calls? It's not just having eyes in the moment. It's like being a quarterback. It's you got to be the best official you can be. You need to study the two teams you're facing so you can see where to look for penalties and where to look for the things they're going to do. And you can't do that during the week. And so I think because of that, there are a lot of times reacting in real time, and it's causing a lot of problems. So because the SEC will not pay its officials full time, and believe me, that's a problem. I firmly believe this year, the college football playoff will come down to a missed call by the refs that affected the outcome of a game in the SEC. I do. You don't have this type of problem in the Big Ten. And here's why. The Big Ten is so top heavy. I mean, so extremely top heavy that you may have 2 games a week with college football playoff caliber teams that's going to be close. The SEC, you have that every week. You're having that every week. We've talked about this before. Everybody talks about SEC versus Big Ten. Big Ten this year, the SEC this year, by the way, Ole Miss, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas. That's 10 of the 16 teams I just named that are expecting to make the college football playoff this year. They're expecting it, all right? And they all just have 1 loss. By the way, Mississippi State also has 1 loss, but I don't think Mississippi State is expecting to make the college football playoff. But teams like Mississippi State and South Carolina are teams that are good enough to pull upsets, but still 10. In the Big Ten, Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, Illinois, and USC. That's 6. That is 6 teams that are expecting to make the college football playoff. Oh, and Penn State, excuse me. That's 7. That is 7 teams. They have 18 teams, only 7 expecting to make the college football playoff. The SEC has 16 teams with 10 expecting to make the college football playoff. You have way more brutal games. I don't care that Maryland's undefeated. They're 4-0. They're not making the college football playoff. They have played the worst schedule in the history of America. That's why they're 4-0. So when you take all of this into account, there's no way possible for me to look at this and say that the refs have no chance of affecting an outcome of a game, that they have no chance of affecting the outcome of a game. I think it's a greater than not chance that they will affect the outcome of a game, an SEC game involving multiple college football playoff teams. I just don't see how you get around that. I really don't. I think it's a really big issue. And I think, honestly, the more we talk about it, the more I think that if I'm being honest with you guys, the more it'll hold the SEC to scrutiny. And I think that's what needs to be done here. I think the SEC needs to be held to way more scrutiny than what they're doing, okay? Because I think what's happening is absolutely a travesty right now. Absolutely a travesty. And it cannot stand. And until we call it out, you're going to continue to see this issue going forward. So as of right now, I really do think the SEC's in trouble. And it's going to be a really bad look if there is a major game in the SEC. Maybe it's Tennessee, Alabama. What happens if the loser of that game misses the playoffs because of that loss, and it comes down to a really bad call? How is the scrutiny will be unbearable for so many people. And I'm telling you guys, we are on the path of that potentially happening right now. I don't see how we get out of it. Covering the SEC, I'm not saying Tennessee, Alabama specifically. It's going to happen at some point, and it's going to be a horrible look. Horrible, horrible, horrible. And with that in mind, I'm sorry, but there is some serious work that needs to be done with this league right now. And until it is, I think there is a lot to be worried about with the SEC going forward. Because I'm telling you, there's going to be a game that costs them. I just don't see how it doesn't happen. I think it's actually very obvious at that point that it is going to happen. So you guys give me your thoughts on it. I mean, sometimes people think it's corruption. I understand why you think it's corruption. I think it's just Occam's razor. There's a lot of incompetence. You're not paying them full time, and the SEC doesn't care. They don't mind the controversy. They know people are still going to watch. That's where this is. Portions of the program are brought to you by HoundDogs of Knoxville, champions look good in orange, hdknoxville.com, hdknoxville.com. When we come back, Paul Finebaum running for Senate. What the 8? Stick with us 2 minutes. Off the Hook Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, And Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem. Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink. If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk.
Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to the program. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring that bell. Turn on your notifications. Tell a friend. Again, building something great here at Off the Hook. Want you to be a part of it. Tennessee graduate Paul Finebaum is running for Senate. Paul Finebaum did an interview with Outkick yesterday. He's not really running for Senate. I want to say that up front. We don't know what Paul Finebaum's doing. Paul Finebaum has been approached by running for Senate and is entertaining the idea. Paul Finebaum spoke with Outkick yesterday in an interview and basically discussed his political feelings and things like that and stuff he wants to be a part of, and effectively talked about where he lands politically. He leans conservative, and he's a Trump supporter, and is exploring running for Senate in Alabama. Paul Finebaum himself is born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, went to school at the University of Tennessee, and then was a columnist for the Birmingham Post-Herald in 1980, has become a very successful columnist, and starting in the mid-1980s, he began his radio career, and obviously became the mouth of the South, blew up, got picked up by ESPN in the 2000s, in the 2010s after SEC Network launched, and has been on ESPN ever since. He is now he turned 70 this past summer. So I would assume that if he did run for Senate, he would probably serve just one term, but who knows? Not, these days we don't know, but he's a registered Republican. Tommy Tuberville is running for governor, the senator who ran in 2020. So that will be an open seat. What the H? This is brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. They want to be your jeweler. Okay. All that out of the way, let me discuss Paul Finebaum. I got no real issue with him running for Senate whatsoever. I understand it. There's nothing wrong with it. At the same time, what is with the people involved with college football running for Senate? So many of them doing that now, or in college sports in general. Obviously, Tommy Tuberville ran for Senate in Alabama. Derek Dooley is running for Senate in Georgia. And he's already announced. Bruce Pearl retired to get involved with politics. Now, he's rejected the idea of running for Senate, but that doesn't mean he's not going to run for something else. And when you take all this into account, it's weird that Paul Finebaum would do this too. So here's my poll question for you guys. Let's have a little fun. Who would you vote for to represent you? You vote for to represent you. And we'll just name the people that have run in college football. Paul Finebaum, Derek Dooley. Yeah, I'm going there. Tommy Tuberville. Or Bruce Pearl. You guys go ahead and vote on that. Let's have a little fun. All these guys have been talked about, expressed interest, whatever. But who would you vote for to represent you? Paul Finebaum, Derek Dooley, Tommy Tuberville, or Bruce Pearl? I'm going to give you guys a really hot take of the 4 that I would actually vote for. I'm actually going with Derek Dooley. Now, hear me out. I get it. I don't like the smugness Derek Dooley really screwed up as head coach at Tennessee. I don't expect competence. But you know what I do think with Derek Dooley? I see honesty, and I see somebody that would at least try to deliver on what he read on. I do. And I do value that. I think Derek Dooley, let me ask you guys this, but among the 4, who is most likely to take your call and actually listen to your needs as a constituent? Now, Paul Finebaum technically does take calls. He's been doing it on the radio for however many years. They screen the callers that are going to be best for his show. My vote would be Derek Dooley. I know you guys can think I'm crazy on that. Many people think I'm some Derek Dooley lover because I've always kind of defended him. But yes, no, I would vote for Derek Dooley. I think Derek Dooley would absolutely try to do his job. He would micromanage everything. So meaning he would, look, put it this way. Derek Dooley is the type of coach the type of politician that as a senator, he wouldn't miss a vote. He'd show up for every vote. He would be so thoroughly detailed on everything he was voting on. The problem is he wouldn't have the bandwidth to do it all because he wouldn't trust his staff to like craft legislation or anything like that. He would get so involved. Derek Dooley's problem was he was way too involved. I kind of want that in a senator sometimes. So as many issues as Dooley has, I actually would rather Derek Dooley represent me than the other 3. Derek Dooley's not going to win because Derek Dooley picks the worst timing. He's not good with people. He's just not. Okay. So he doesn't have the people skills to win, but he does have the skills to be a senator. And with that, I would vote for him just on not thinking partisanly. Okay. Because all these guys are obviously Republican. I'm not thinking from a partisan perspective. I'm thinking just on a general, if one of these guys is going to win, who do I want to represent me? I would pick Derek Dooley. Paul Finebaum, I got no idea what to expect with him. Tommy Tuberville has shown himself at times to be a decent person, but also has shown himself at times to be a little bit self-serving. And the self-serving nature of Tommy Tuberville, I know he's been a senator, but the way he was at Ole Miss and then leaving to go to Auburn like that, he's a very selfish individual. So I can never trust Tommy Tuberville to pick up the phone for me. Bruce Pearl, I know the details of how he got fired at Tennessee. And it's not just that he lied about a barbecue. He's done some other really shady things. He took all the buyout money for himself. He orchestrated a situation where his son would get the job at Auburn after he retired. He is a little bit of a snake. And I know that's in politics, but I'm trying to think of who would be the least snake. And Derek Dooley would be the least snake-like person in politics, but he also wouldn't win because of that. But I would prefer Derek Dooley because I actually think if I told Derek Dooley I had an issue, I actually think he would listen to me on that. What the H brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Looking for affordable game day jewelry? They want to be your jeweler. A Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
All right, I'm going to get to the poll question in a minute, but a lot of you guys are asking why run for governor, isn't that a downgrade from senator? Well, no, not really. Yes, of the last 3 presidents, people to be president, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump, one was a businessman, one was a senator and a vice president, and then Barack Obama was a senator. However, in terms of the leap from like a statewide office to the presidency, the most common way is a governor. The second most common way is a vice president. Senate is actually the least common. Well, Trump's is the least common. Out of office, period. So let's, ranking these. If you're ranking the leap to make from a position to the presidency and you're looking to run for president one day, governor's number one. Just look in your lifetime. Reagan went from governor to president. Bush Sr. went from vice president to president. Clinton went from governor to president. And Bush went from governor to president. Obama went from senator to president. And Biden went from vice president to president. And when I mean vice, I mean, what's the highest office you held right before you became president? And Trump went from businessman to president. So the score is governor 3, vice president 2, senator 1, businessman 1. Let's go further back. Jimmy Carter, governor 4, vice president 2, senator 1, businessman 1. Gerald Ford, vice president. Richard Nixon, vice president. So that ties it at 4, but that's kind of cheating with Gerald Ford, isn't it? He was never on a winning ticket, but whatever. I'll give it to him. Okay. So that's 4-1, 4-4-1-1 at that point. LBJ, 1960s, vice president. That's 5-4-1. John F. Kennedy, Senate, 5-4-2-1. Dwight Eisenhower, war general. Okay. 5-4-2-1-1. Harry Truman, vice president, 6-4-2-1-1, and FDR, governor, 6-5-2-1-1. So vice president is the most common path to the presidency. However, how many of those vice presidents that we're talking about ascended directly from vice president to president? Not Richard Nixon. He was away for 8 years. Okay, so not him. Not Joe Biden. He was away for 4 years. So when you take, and how many of them were actually elected president directly upon being vice president? 1. George H.W. Bush. Biden was a private citizen. Richard Nixon was a private citizen. Gerald Ford just ascended to it because of the Richard Nixon's resignation. And then LBJ and Harry Truman ascended to it because of the death of the president in office at the time. So in terms of a direct leap from being a governor to then winning an election, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush all pulled that off. That's the most common way. And Steve Sullivan says, you guys are saying Nixon and Kennedy were senators. I understand that, but I'm saying what's the most recent one you had. And Nixon and Kennedy, the only ones that made the leap directly from Senate to the presidency were Barack Obama and John F. Kennedy. That was it. In the post-war era. Those were the only two. So when you take that into account, Barack Obama and John F. Kennedy were the only ones to make the leap from Senate to the presidency. Whereas you've had 4 make the leap from governorship to the presidency, and then 5 if you go back to the Great Depression with FDR. So again, so you got 5 made the leap directly from governor to presidency, 2 made the leap directly from senator to presidency. Again, yes, you had other former vice presidents. Again, Joe Biden, Harry Truman, all these guys. But most of the vice presidents to become president either did it because the president died or they were private citizens when they did it. The only one to make the leap directly from vice president to run for president and win was George H.W. Bush in 1988. Point being, governor is a better pathway than a senator if you're trying to become president. Now, to the poll question, who would you rather vote to represent you? Bruce Pearl leads the way at 47%, Tommy Tuberville at 41%, Derek Dooley at 6%, Paul Finebaum at 6%. I'm voting for Derek Dooley. I think Derek Dooley does genuinely look out for people he works for and supposed to represent, and I think he would look out for his constituents. Even if you disagree with him politically, I'm talking about just in general, if you have to pick between the 4, Derek Dooley will lean a certain way. I do believe Derek, just for perspective, I don't care. Take 4 conservatives, 4 liberals, whatever. And I don't care if you lean the opposite way. If you just have to pick between the 4, you pick the one who you think, even if they're ideological, will listen to needs you have. And I think Derek Dooley would have needs I have. Just on simple basics terms. Like, say I think my taxes were mistake. I think the IRS mishandled my taxes and I need somebody to do that type of legwork. I trust that Derek Dooley would actually call me back and help me fix that issue. That's, by the way, people think about this with congressmen. Everybody talks about the big fights they have on the Senate floor. Some of the most common day-to-day work is a constituent calls and has a basic issue that needs to be addressed. And it's beyond partisanship at that point. And I had one time I had to call my representative because I didn't get a tax refund I was supposed to get. I mean, so much of the work of congressmen is just doing that for their constituents. And who do I think would be most likely to do that? I think Derek Dooley would. I think Derek Dooley absolutely would. So that's why I'd vote for him of the four. Portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is in the chat. It is time for the stat of the day. And the stat of the day is this. With his win at Mississippi State on Saturday, Josh Heupel has improved his record on the road against teams with a winning record to 7-9, but he's still only 7-9 on the road against teams with a winning record. Stat of the day, a winning record at the time he plays him. Stat of the day brought to you by Joe Neubert Collision Center. For nearly 50 years, Neubert Collision Center is East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. JoeNeubertCollision.com, JoeNeubertCollision.com. When we come back, SEC quarterback power rankings and football IQ. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to the program. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring that bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend. Again, building something great here at All Folks Sports wants you to be a part of it. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, hey, Bo, All Folks Sports sent you. QualityTirePros.com. It is time for our SEC quarterback power rankings. And we bring you these on the heels of pretty wild weekend in college football, to say the least. Our SEC quarterback power rankings is based on how the individual quarterbacks are playing in that moment. And it's that simple. So we're going to get going. We go with all 16 starting quarterbacks at the time. Okay. So we're going to get going on the 16 starting quarterbacks. And then I'm going to play hot or cold with who I think, with how well I think they're going to finish. Am I hot or cold on the way I expect them to finish? Because that becomes a really big debate as well. I think it's tough to know where all these guys are going to finish because there's a lot of football left to be played. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of credit to be given to some of these guys. And I will say this much. I'll say this much straight up. This quarterback room is as elite as it has ever been in the SEC. And I mean, that part is as clear as day. If we're being honest, this is an incredible quarterback room to this point. So hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, let's get rolling with the worst quarterback in the SEC as of right now. And he's hurt. He's in a walking boot, so he's probably not even going to play anymore. But until somebody replaces him, I'm obviously talking about DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway is number 16 on the list. DJ Lagway is the worst quarterback in the SEC at Florida. Florida didn't play this past weekend, so he didn't have any chance to make himself worse. But as of right now, yes, he's the worst quarterback in the SEC. DJ Lagway is 16 at Florida. Cutter Boley, and I am cold on him getting any better because I don't think he's going to play the rest of the year. Cutter Boley, number 15, in second worst in the SEC. He got exposed after a great game against Eastern Michigan, was horrible against South Carolina. I'm cold on him. He won't get any better. I think he's awful. Garrett Nussmeier is all the way down at 14, played poorly against Ole Miss over the weekend. The issues that were in the red flags that were being raised about LSU's offense all came to fruition, and Garrett Nussmeier looked horrible. So he's now number 14. I do think he will get better, though. I'm hot on him getting better as the season goes on. Jackson Arnold has fallen down to reality. He's down to number 13 at Auburn after playing pretty poorly in their loss to Texas A&M. But I'm hot on Jackson Arnold. I think he will get better over time. So I still think he's pretty good. Arch Manning, number 12. Arch Manning has to climb the ranks a little bit more, but he did look good in his last outing 2 weeks ago. If he looks good on Saturday, he'll be able to climb a little more. And I still believe in Arch Manning. I'm high on him. So I'm hot. Talon Green at Arkansas is down to number 11. For 2 weeks, he was playing well and everybody else was playing poorly, but then things collapsed against Notre Dame. And now with Arkansas losing and firing Sam Pittman, he's down at number 11. I'm cold on him because I just think that I think Arkansas is just going to get worse and worse and worse as the season goes on, even with Bobby Petrino back. So I'm cold on Talon Green. Marcel Reed at number 10 at Texas A&M. While I think Texas A&M is going, because Marcel Reed struggled even though they beat Auburn. While I think Texas A&M is going to stay good, I think it'll be the Mike Elko defense that starts to step up. So I think they'll stay good, but I'm cold on Marcel Reed actually being any better. Blake Shapen at number 9. Again, believe in Blake Shapen, like him. SEC's too loaded though, so I am cold on Blake Shapen. I think he's going to go lower. Gunnar Stockton at number 8. I think Gunnar Stockton got exposed. The game against Tennessee was a fraud. It's because Tennessee was hurt and they got tired at the end. With Georgia, I think he will fall too. Lenore Sellers at number 7. I'm hot on Lenore Sellers. I think he's going to rise. Lenore Sellers was healthy over the weekend. He had 81 rushing yards, 150 passing yards. He looks like he's getting back into shape against Kentucky. So I'm hot on Lenore Sellers. Bo Prabula at Missouri, number 6. I'm cold on him. I think he's going to start to fall down the pack as the schedule gets tougher. John Mateer at Oklahoma, number 5. Would be high on him, but I think John Mateer and Oklahoma are going. John Mateer's hurt. That's going to be a problem. So that's the real issue for them. Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. Number 4 on this list, Joey Aguilar. Yeah, I'm hot on Joey Aguilar getting higher than number 4 on this list. Joey Aguilar right now is number 4 because the other guys you will see have to be higher. But Joey Aguilar leads the SEC in passing yards right now with 1,459. He is 5th, I believe, or tied for 5th in passing yards per attempt at 9.3. His quarterback rating is 6th right now at 164. But we're going to see how this all plays out. Many of you guys are asking about Neubert and Lagway and things like that. I'm not putting Trammell Jones on there because we have to see Lagway. I think he's still going to play this week, but it's going to be awful. But 2 quarterbacks who are not on this list, Trammell Jones. 3 quarterbacks who are not on this list yet. Trammell Jones, who might play some. Michael Van Buren, who's going to step in for John Mateer, and Austin Simmons, who has now lost his starting job to somebody I'm about to name on this list a little later. But yes, Joey Aguilar is number 4, and I'm hot on him. By the end of the year, he might be the best quarterback in the SEC. So I'm very hot on Joey Aguilar right now, getting even better than where he is. He has had a rough go of it. He's got 5 interceptions on the year, and none of them are his fault. None of them are his fault. So I'm very high on Joey Aguilar. The Tennessee quarterback is a baller, and Tennessee is not missing Nico Iamaleava at all. All right, number 4 on the list, or number 3 on the list. Let's keep going. Number 3 on the list is Vanderbilt's Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia hasn't played the toughest schedule, but boy, has he balled out. Last weekend, he was 26 of 34 for 321 yards and 5 touchdowns while rushing for 79 yards and another touchdown. 6 total touchdowns, which followed him throwing for 245 yards and a touchdown and rushing for 86 yards and a touchdown as he led Vanderbilt to 70 points against Georgia State. Everywhere Diego Pavia has been, he's been balling. He's getting better by the week. That extra year of eligibility is really paying off. Everybody should be nervous about Diego Pavia. Homeboy can ball. As Charlie Murphy once said about Prince, this cat could ball. And Diego Pavia can absolutely ball. Very high on Diego Pavia right now. Now, I do think Joey Aguilar will finish better than Diego Pavia. But at the same time, I also believe that right now Diego Pavia has been playing better. So with that in mind, I am very high on Diego Pavia at number 3, even though I'm cold on him finishing there as Vanderbilt's season gets tougher down the stretch. Number 2. I told you guys quietly he was having a heck of a year, didn't I? I told you guys quietly he was getting better and better and better. And now he has proven it. Ty Simpson at Alabama at number 2. Ty Simpson, for the record, guys, hasn't thrown an interception this year. Against Georgia, completed 63% of his passes for 2 touchdowns and 276 yards, the perfect type of game. A total QBR of 90. 90, by the way. Superb performance. That followed him throwing for 382 yards and 4 touchdowns against a very bad Wisconsin team, yes. But against Louisiana Monroe, he completed all 17 of his passes. Ever since that loss to Florida State, he has figured something out, guys. And Ty Simpson now has 11 touchdowns and no interceptions, plus 2 more rushing touchdowns. He is running Kalen DeBoer's offense perfectly. Everybody needs to be scared of Ty Simpson. This guy is incredible at this point. Now, where do I land with Ty Simpson? I'm cold on him because it's a top 2 spot. I don't think he can stay the second best quarterback in the SEC, but he's going to stay a top 5 quarterback. I just think Joey Aguilar is going to emerge. Arch Manning is eventually going to figure it out. That's why I'm cold on him right now. But Ty Simpson, in my quarterback power rankings, yes, he right now is playing as well as or better than anybody else on the list. And I don't really think that's much of a debate, honestly. But the number 1 best quarterback in the SEC right now, and nobody can debate this, is Trinidad Chambliss. Okay. Trinidad Chambliss, for those who don't know, wasn't even the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. Austin Simmons was. He stepped in for Austin Simmons in week 3 against Arkansas. Here's all he's done in his 3 starts. He's thrown for 353 yards, 307 yards, 314 yards against Arkansas, Tulane, and LSU. Oh, he's also rushed for 62 yards, 112 yards, and 171 yards. And he's got 7 total touchdowns. Trinidad Chambliss right now is the best quarterback in the SEC. He is balling. He's playing incredible. But am I hot or cold on him staying at that level? No, I think he's going to fall. I think he's going to fall eventually. He'll hit reality once Lane Kiffin chokes in a game like he always does. Portions of the program are brought to you by the UPS Store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated, 10629 Hardin Valley Road. Let's get rolling with more coverage of the last weekend in college football, week 5. And it's time for our football IQ, where we look back on just the dumbest football coaches in all of college football. And it goes from play calling to mismanaged clock to everything in between. And there were quite a few doozies this past week. Football IQ will be 4 Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Our football IQ gets rolling. And here's how we're gonna play it. We're gonna play 4 Downs. And the 4 Downs will be this. We're gonna talk about play calling for 1 down. We're gonna talk about timeout usage for another down. We're going to talk about end of half usage for another one. And then we're going to talk about somebody who screwed up on all counts. So we're going to have fun with all 4. All right. So we're going to go in. I don't have the soundboard, and you guys know how it works. You guys know the drill. When I don't have the soundboard, I imitate Cooper Mays, because when Dave Hooker is here, he has the soundboard, and Cooper Mays' voice teases off for the 4 downs. We don't have him, so I'm going to imitate him. So Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. Thank you, Coop. All right. Cooper here. First down. First down. Play calling. Play calling in the game. I got 2 that really anger me. The first is Iowa and Indiana. Iowa had a chance to beat Indiana. They were down 20-13 in the 4th quarter. They had the ball past midfield. They were running it well. It's Iowa. It's Kirk Ferentz. It's an Iowa coach team. There's 44 seconds left. That's plenty of time to move the ball while running it, particularly when they had 2 timeouts left. That's right. They had 2 timeouts left, and they were at the Indiana 49. They threw it 3 times. Or excuse me, they threw it 4 straight times. 4 straight times, 4 incomplete passes. Do a draw. Indiana's not prepared for it. They're playing soft coverage. Get a shorter field so you can play for a game-time touchdown. Kirk Ferentz, come on, man. Running is your bread and butter. What are you doing putting the ball in the air in that game? Yes, you only averaged 90. You only got 92 yards on 31 carries, but you only ran it 18 times with your running back who had 18 carries for 75 yards. Your bread and butter is to wear defenses down, man, and you threw the ball way too much in this game, particularly with Hank Brown coming in. I'm sorry. I got a big issue with how that played out. So but sticking on first down with play calling, the worst play calling of the week was, truth be told, Oregon and Penn State. James Franklin can't win the big one because of his in-game management late. How did Penn State lose this game? Well, they lost this game because James Franklin decided to put the ball in the air. Anybody that was watching that game, Penn State trailed 17-3 in the 4th, and then they scored 2 touchdowns, and then they scored in overtime. Why were they scoring? Because Oregon's defense had gotten worn down. Penn State is deeper on the offensive line. They are stronger. They are tougher, and they were wearing Oregon's defensive line down. That's why Katron Allen had 12 carries for 54 yards. Drew Aller was able to run himself 9 carries for 42 yards. Keep it on the ground. In the first overtime, they had 2 runs for 20 yards to get the touchdown. On their final drive, they did in the regulation, they did nothing but run down the field to score. They were clearly running the ball well. Stick with it. Instead, after Oregon scores a touchdown, doesn't get the 2 to go up 30-24, you got it. All you got to do is score a touchdown, and you win it when you go for, if you can win it with 2-point conversion. Okay, they're on the ropes. Oregon is on the ropes. Keep it on the ground. Instead, you call a pass play to the sideline. The pass is intercepted, and Penn State loses the game. I firmly blame James Franklin for passing the ball in that situation. Run it. Derek is asking if Hype made my list. Derek, unfortunately, Josh Heupel won, so he doesn't make my list for terrible, terrible, terrible coaching. Now, moving on. Cooper, second down. Thank you, Coop. Second down is this. Our old boy Brian Kelly, and this is end of half management. Now, a lot of people are blaming Brian Kelly for that timeout that he used against Ole Miss late in the game. I kind of understand that thought process because you actually make it a more obvious decision for what Ole Miss wants to do after that. But truth be told, I wouldn't have done it. I understand it. That's not as obvious of a decision. What is an obvious decision is how he managed the end of the first half, where at the end of the first half, Brian Kelly decides, I'm going to call a timeout to get my defense rest. After Ole Miss, it's a 3rd and 2. They have a running play to the LSU 13 with 44 seconds left. The number one thing you want to try to do is to force them to kick a field goal here, and you call a timeout. You save Lane Kiffin from himself. They are able to get a regroup. They throw a pass for 8 yards on 4. It was 3rd and 2. Kwan Lacey runs for 1 yard, brings up a 4th and 1. Ole Miss has it. The clock is running to 32 seconds left, and Brian Kelly calls a timeout. Allows Ole Miss to regroup, call up a play. They draw up a play, complete an 8-yard pass. 2 plays later, they're in the end zone for a touchdown. One of the absolute dumbest decisions I have ever witnessed. I cannot believe Brian Kelly called that timeout. That was one of the dumbest decisions in the history of the game. And taking that into account, Brian Kelly absolutely makes that list. Tennessee Senator Cooper Mays here. 3rd down. 3rd down is this. Coach Prime, Man, does anybody? I'm so mad at a parlay that would have hit $300 of Coach Prime if that game went over 48 points the other day and they started 14-0 Colorado, and then Colorado's offense stalled after that, largely because Coach Prime's poor coaching late. What did Coach Prime do? One, he burned a timeout when he shouldn't have burned a timeout when BYU had the ball at one point. There was no reason to burn the timeout, by the way. None whatsoever, but he burns it when a 4th and 9 is coming up. You're going to need that timeout, by the way, late if you don't score on the next possession. And guess what? He now doesn't score on the next possession because Kaidon Salter throws a pass that's intercepted by Isaiah Glasker, and BYU was able to run out the clock. Now, 2 points. You don't burn that timeout there because you're going to need it at the end of the game. Y'all know how I feel about burning timeouts. But 2, and more importantly, if you're going to burn that timeout, well, it's too late for you to try to save your timeouts when you're doing a game-winning drive, because if they get the ball back, they can just take a knee. So you might as well burn a timeout after the Kaidon Salter 5-yard run at the Colorado 19, because you're running a lot of clock down and you could draw up a better play. You don't. Deion mismanages his timeouts. Again, Coach Prime mismanages his timeouts all the time. All righty. 4th down coming up. First, again, 4 downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume Ford dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Oh, let's just see Senator Cooper Mays here. 4th down. Thank you, Coop. And 4th down goes to Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell with the L of the century in this game for 2 reasons. He gets on this list because he made 2 mistakes. The first one, Florida State, for those who don't know, lost 46-38 to Virginia on the road on Friday. Mike Norvell had the ball. It's clearly an offensive game, by the way. It's tied at 21 in the half, okay? Florida State gets the ball with 48 seconds left. Mike Norvell decides to play for the half. He decides to play for the half. He calls a running play, then throws an incompletion, then another running play, then a 5-yard play, then an incomplete pass, and lets the clock run all the way down. So he has to try, so he can't, and runs it with to run the clock out at the FSU 41, not even trying for a Hail Mary. You can't do that in these type of shootouts. Mike Norvell deserves a ton of blame for that. But then at the end of the game, Florida State scores a touchdown after playing horrible all game to make it 35-34. You're on the road on a Friday night. Go for 2 and the win. Go for 2 and the win. Mike Norvell decides to kick the extra point, and you take it in overtime where it's anyone's game, and he screws up. And in the second overtime, Florida State throws an interception, and they lose. Mike Norvell wins the Football IQ Mismanaged Clock Mismanaged Game Award of the week, and that is my 5 worst coaching decisions of the week. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win by Settle. Banks & Jones, by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in today. You guys have a great rest of your day. We'll see you all tomorrow with Caleb Calhoun.